this later today. Why were they not in a room at 7 a.m. this morning? I don't understand that. I really don't. Why have they not all been in a room?
While these negotiations continue behind closed doors, another development is about to draw public attention back to the sport itself. The USA basketball national team is preparing to begin international competition, and one of the players expected to take the court is Caitlin Clark. Her participation in international games comes at a particularly interesting moment. While the WNBA season remains uncertain due to ongoing labor discussions, Clark will be stepping onto the court wearing the United States women's national basketball team uniform and playing meaningful games once again. That timing could have a powerful impact on the negotiations themselves. Whenever Clark plays, attention follows. Her deep three-point shooting, fast-paced style, and fearless confidence have turned her into one of the most talked-about athletes in basketball. Highlights of her performances spread rapidly across social media platforms, drawing millions of viewers who may not normally watch women's basketball. When those highlights begin circulating during international competition, they will remind fans of exactly what makes the sport so exciting. Viewership numbers for these games are expected to be strong, and every impressive performance will likely generate headlines across sports media outlets. For the league and the players alike, that attention serves as a powerful reminder of what is at stake. The WNBA has spent years building momentum, attracting new fans, and expanding its audience. Clark's rise has accelerated that process, bringing unprecedented visibility to the league. If negotiations were to drag on too long and delay the upcoming season, that momentum could be put at risk. Fans who are currently excited about the sport might become frustrated if games are postponed or cancelled. Sponsors and broadcasters could also become concerned about investing in a league facing prolonged labor disputes. In that sense, Clark's performances on the international stage could function as an unexpected form of negotiation pressure. Every highlight, every viral clip, and every surge in viewership will serve as a reminder of how valuable the sport has become. Sometimes the most effective negotiating tactic is not a statement or a proposal. Sometimes it is simply demonstrating the value of what is at stake. As Clark steps onto the court representing her country, both sides of the negotiation table will be watching closely. Because every shot she makes will reinforce the same message: women's basketball is experiencing a powerful surge in popularity, and the decisions made during these negotiations will determine how that momentum is carried into the future.
Being more of a target date than a hard and fast deadline. When the players were given that time frame, the union saw it as a negotiating tactic from the WNBA to pressure players into a deal. Okay, well, if that's the case, lock them out. I mean, if they didn't want to take it seriously, then maybe Adam Silver should do a little something to catch their attention. Even if it's for a few days, just to catch their attention.
March 10th arrived, passed quietly, and ultimately proved to be far less dramatic than many people had expected. For weeks leading up to that date, it had been presented as a critical deadline, one that was supposed to push the WNBA and the WNBA Players Association toward finalizing a new collective bargaining agreement. Fans, analysts, and players alike had been watching the calendar closely, assuming that the pressure of the deadline would force both sides into serious negotiations and perhaps even produce a long-awaited deal. But when March 10th finally came and went, something surprising happened. Nothing actually changed. The deadline that many believed would serve as a decisive turning point suddenly looked more like a suggestion than a firm ultimatum. Instead of emergency negotiations or dramatic last-minute announcements, the situation remained largely unchanged. As of now, with only 59 days remaining before the season opener scheduled for May 8th, there is still no finalized agreement between the league and the union. Even more surprising, the two sides are not currently locked in non-stop negotiations. Rather than conducting intense overnight meetings or early morning discussions designed to hammer out the details of a deal, reports suggest that both parties are simply planning to meet again later in the day. That update came from prominent NBA insider Shams Charania, who reported that a meeting had been scheduled but that very few details about it had been publicly released. No clear timeline has been established, and no major breakthroughs have been announced. Both sides have exchanged proposals in recent days, which on the surface sounds like progress. However, when placed in the context of the league's rapidly approaching schedule, the situation becomes much more concerning. Training camps for WNBA teams are expected to begin around April 19th, which is now only about 5 weeks away. Training camp is a crucial period for every professional basketball organization. Coaches need time to evaluate new players, test different strategies, and build chemistry among teammates. Rookies entering the league rely on these camps to adjust to the professional level, while veterans use the time to sharpen their conditioning and prepare for the long season ahead. Without a finalized collective bargaining agreement in place, however, that preparation process becomes far more complicated. Teams cannot move forward confidently if the financial structure of the league remains unresolved. Player contracts, roster decisions, and scheduling logistics all depend on the framework established by the CBA. That is why many observers are beginning to question whether the negotiation timeline is moving quickly enough. The season opener may still be nearly 2 months away, but in professional sports terms, that is an incredibly short window to finalize a major labor agreement and organize all the operational details that follow. For now, both sides continue to exchange proposals and plan future meetings. But with each passing day, the pressure grows stronger. The clock is ticking, the season is approaching, and the entire league is waiting to see whether these negotiations can finally produce the agreement everyone has been anticipating.
Time crunch is upon us, with much to do between now and then. So, we all know Caitlin Clark called for everybody. She was like, why is everybody not in a room and making a deal, shaking hands, and go? Why is that not happening? So, what happens if there is no agreement? Sources initially described March 10th as more of a target date. That said, the league is still pushing for this deal to get done sooner rather than later to avoid scheduling impacts and revenue losses. Even when a term sheet is completed, it could take several.
Another question that has repeatedly surfaced during the negotiations involves the role of Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA. Many observers have been wondering why Silver has not yet appeared directly in the negotiation room. According to current reports, the day-to-day discussions have primarily been led by Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner of the WNBA. Engelbert has been responsible for guiding the league through a period of rapid growth, and she has played a central role in shaping its financial and organizational structure. However, the absence of Silver from the negotiating table has still attracted attention. The reason is fairly straightforward. While the WNBA operates as its own league, it is still closely connected to the NBA's broader ownership structure. Many of the financial decisions that influence the WNBA ultimately involve NBA team owners and investors. As the commissioner of the NBA, Silver represents that powerful group of stakeholders. Because of that connection, his presence in negotiations would carry significant weight. When a commissioner of his influence enters a room, it often signals that discussions are entering a more serious phase. His involvement would suggest that both sides are moving closer to decisions that could reshape the financial framework of the league. Some players have reportedly been waiting for that moment. They believe that once Silver becomes directly involved, the conversation could shift from theoretical limits to practical solutions. In other words, instead of debating what the league cannot afford, negotiators might begin discussing what it is actually willing to pay in order to reach a fair agreement. That distinction is important. Early stages of labor negotiations often involve each side presenting extreme positions designed to strengthen their bargaining power. Over time, those positions gradually move closer together as both sides search for compromise. The arrival of a high-ranking figure like Silver could accelerate that process by bringing additional authority and financial clarity to the discussion. For now, however, the negotiations remain under Engelbert's leadership. She continues to meet with union representatives and work toward a resolution that satisfies both players and team owners. But if the current stalemate continues much longer, the pressure for Silver to step in will likely grow. His involvement could mark a turning point, one that transforms slow-moving negotiations into a more decisive push toward a final agreement.
Have the expansion draft, and we're talking about a 2-day time frame, and the next 3 days have free agency, and then get ready for the draft. Is it inconvenient? Yeah, but these players need to understand y'all aren't taking the deal, so you are in part responsible for your own inconvenience. So just something I'm throwing out there in all this before anybody does but that's not fair.
As the negotiations continue and the calendar keeps moving forward, the biggest concern surrounding the WNBA is no longer just about numbers on a contract. It's about timing, momentum, and the fragile balance between opportunity and risk. Every day that passes without a finalized agreement brings the league closer to a moment where uncertainty could begin affecting real basketball operations. The upcoming season is scheduled to tip off on May 8th, and although that date may still seem comfortably distant, the reality behind the scenes is very different. Professional leagues require months of preparation before the first official game is ever played. Training camps must open on time so players can get into game shape. Coaching staffs need time to install strategies and test lineups. Medical teams evaluate athletes after the offseason, while front offices finalize roster decisions and contract paperwork. If negotiations continue to stall, those carefully planned schedules could begin to unravel. Even small delays can create a domino effect throughout the league's structure. Teams might struggle to organize preseason activities. Players could face uncertainty about their contracts and salaries. And fans who are eagerly anticipating the return of the season might start wondering whether the opening tip-off will arrive exactly as planned. That uncertainty is particularly significant right now because the league is experiencing one of the most important growth periods in its history. Over the last year, attention surrounding women's basketball has expanded dramatically. Rising stars like Caitlin Clark, established champions such as Aya Wilson, and international talents like Breanna Stewart have helped push the league into the spotlight in ways that were rarely seen before. Television ratings have improved, arenas have filled with enthusiastic crowds, and social media engagement has surged with every spectacular highlight. The sport is reaching new audiences, including younger fans who are discovering professional women's basketball for the first time. Sponsors and broadcasters have taken notice, increasing their investment in creating new financial opportunities for the league. All of that progress has created a sense of urgency around the negotiations. Both the players and the league's leadership understand that this moment represents a rare chance to strengthen the foundation of the sport. The challenge lies in finding a financial structure that rewards the athletes fairly while also ensuring long-term stability for the league and its franchises. Labor disputes in sports are rarely resolved overnight. They often involve long hours of discussion, detailed financial analysis, and careful compromise from both sides. But in situations like this, time becomes an increasingly valuable resource. Every meeting scheduled, every proposal exchanged, and every public statement from players or league officials now carries extra weight. The outcome of these negotiations will shape not just the upcoming season but the direction of the league for years to come. For fans watching from the outside, the hope is simple, that both sides recognize the opportunity in front of them and reach a solution before the ticking clock turns a promising season into a complicated one.
First thing for both sides. So, there we go. Seriously. And I'm not going into the rest of this article. It is a long ass article. But that's where we stand. No deal. And for all we know, they're meeting right now because they are supposed to be meeting. We don't know when that starts. We don't know who's in attendance. Is today the day Adam Silver enters the chat? Because from what I understand, he has not been present, like in person, for these meetings between the league and the union. I do believe at some point he's going to enter the chat